So good morning everyone, welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. Whatever demands are there from the world, let go. Whatever inner demands come to impel you to get something from the world, let it go. That silent stillness which lies there in that attitude towards the world, if accessed, it is pure fire. And in that fire you remain, letting that fire consume whatever is still there until nothing is left but silence, stillness. So good morning once again. Last satsang we spoke about family in the context of the quest for freedom. And today I'm going to answer some questions about it. Like I said previously, it is a very important topic and many struggle with this. Whatever is precious, whatever is important for you, whatever gives the body-mind complex meaning, importance, continuity, is good in terms of maintenance of the dream. And it has nothing to do with, how do you say this, throwing away responsibilities. Because those who want to throw away their responsibilities, they don't need to be in the quest for truth. And if it is for those matters, well, that's not really aligned. It is about transcending the obligation, the need, the inner urge to comply with those demands and especially accept what the spiritual path is proposing you. It's not about making decisions, planning my spiritual path. Oh, I have family, so if I want to continue, I just let go everything. No, that detachment is important and you need to work on it innerly. But if by any chance it starts to get conflicting with that and you have to choose, your choice should always reflect the highest values, and that is liberation. I will answer your question now. Dear Sriman, after listening to the satsang on the family, can you confirm my understanding of it? For the seeker of truth, there is no need to ask himself what he should do or what decision he should make about his family. The only attitude that is rightful for him is to intensify his practice, to follow the guidance, and then to be with the consequences, or in this case to live with the consequences that such an intense practice engenders. Namely, that the family adapts or stay put. This is Google translation, so I'll improve it a little bit. You see, the thing is, if you're not willing to go all the way, to sacrifice whatever is asked, eventually you'll fall down. Why is that? Well, because illusion is something living. It has an intelligence. All this observed world is here to impress you, to make you distract. And it has a life of its own. It has a purpose of its own. It's not just innocent. And like in a game of chess, you explore the weaknesses in the other one's defense, offense, and all of that. And you prepare strategically your game. It is the same, because as you are trying to progress, illusion, that force, that intelligence, it is making its moves to corner you, to trap you, to make you go back to the importance giving stance. And it will do that by exploring whatever weakness you have. And depending on the level of despair. And yes, illusion gets despair. But only high-level seekers can see this. Those who have the strength to push beyond the apparent limitations. Because without that, you see just events, random, more or less normal events, more or less align with your sense of normal, logical, and so on. But if you're a high-level seeker, that means someone who is able to go through, despite their level of suffering, to go through their own limitations, you will see illusion getting desperate. And how will that manifest? Well, in normal circumstances, you just get certain feelings, certain sensations that you sometimes even think it is something higher. Or certain thoughts go through your mind in a normal way, like you're used to. But when illusion gets desperate, you start getting bombarded by everything which is possible to make you give up. And it's so intense that it seems unbearable. And this is a very, very key opportunity, because illusion is exposing itself. But if your level of fragility is too high, you'll just be like this, at least in attitude, and you won't be seeing it. But if you manage, and you can do this over time, as you get exposed more and more to this, you will be able to move beyond your suffering, your fragility, and you will start seeing how things are moving, how things are happening inside of you, that they are completely abnormal, nonsensical, and it's desperation. And you feel a constant attack to push you back again. So this means you're doing something right. But again, a lot of things have to be in their right place for you to be able to experience this. And you can make a confusion with the normal cycles of the mind, and when you're getting too agitated and thoughts are very intense, but it has nothing to do with that. It's like a siege. And you're getting pushed back, you can see that, and things come so intense that you want to give up. There's something in there that wants to give up. And logic fades. Those things that start coming and happening, manifesting in that intimate space, or in the surroundings of your body, you will see that logic starts to fade a little bit, and it becomes more and more visible that yes, there is an ongoing conflict, and yes, there is something opposing my path. Well, normally seekers tend to look at their surroundings, their life, circumstances of their life, and etc., as something innocent. They are just there, and if you interact, there's interaction, and if you don't, they just stay there. But that's not really the case. But as you are behaving, that means complying, going with the flow, you won't see it. There won't be any resistance. It's like you've been kidnapped by someone, and you're behaving, you're doing everything which is you're being told. So no aggression will come. Why? You're in submission. You're doing what you're told. So no aggression is needed. Nothing is visible. But if you start going against it, aggression will come. And it's the same. So eventually the mindset has to bear this in mind, because this attitude of always trying to implement peace, this doesn't let you go too far, because aggression will be there, demandings will be there, and if you're complying, nothing will be seen. If you start going against what appears to be natural, then aggression will come in a more intense way. And it's like, you better than no one know your limitations. You know your weaknesses. You know, not all probably, but some sufficient to get started. You know this. So, and you can qualify them by degree of importance. And you can be sure that everything will be put on the scale. Everything will be questioned. You will be tested in those fields, in those areas, in those importances. In the small ones first, and then if you misbehave, on those which are more important. So by knowing all of this, if you want to stand a chance, it is important for you to work on them. Because all weaknesses, dependencies, all of these things, fragility needs constant investment to create, maintain the circumstances where you will not feel them, where you will feel safe. So this takes a lot of investment. And as you remove this investment, more energy will be available, more time will be available for your practice, for silent stillness. And you will be using your time in a very constructive way. And when those tests come, you'll be almost ready. Because nobody is ready. But at least you will have the right mindset and the right attitude. And that's fundamental if you want to overcome. Because one thing is to prepare yourself mentally. This is what usually is done. And another thing is to be exposed. So when I say to prepare, I'm not talking about mental preparedness. Oh, I have to let go of this or that, I have to be detached and blah, 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 blah. No, it's about when you start cutting your investments. And that's easy. You don't need to cut this and that and this and that. You just need to increase stillness and silence automatically. All outward investments will reduce a lot or cease depending on how much are you going to silence, stillness. So that percentage that you are putting into that will reduce automatically the rest. And then the blackmails, the whatever it takes will start coming slowly first, because usually it comes it comes very slowly, very subtle, and you just feel that shiver in your spine of a little bit of fear, or even you don't even touch fear, and you just cut that and go back to the more normal stance. And by not going to the normal stance, those blackmails, all that thing that really touches you from within, will start growing, and as you are exposed to that and you continue your attitude, you'll start to create some independence, some self-sufficiency. And that is very important. And as you are exposed to this again and again, you cultivate the right mental attitude, and it is something concrete, real, as compared to just mental work. I have seen many seekers working on their dependencies on a mental level. And they say, oh, that's already solved. And then they start intensifying. And then they get exposed in circumstances that reflect those fears and those dependencies. And they find out that all the work that had been done intellectually has no value, no property, nothing. The same fragilities and dependencies are there still. So you have to be exposed to it, to go through it, and remain focused and detached. This is how you conquer your self-sufficiency. Being exposed to your fragilities, fears, attachments, and not doing anything to control, to maintain. This is how you outgrow them. So here, follow the guidance, and then to live the consequences that direction unfolds. And yes, without controlling, without anything of this. And the attitude. Wait, there's one. Namely that the family adapts or falls behind. This means whatever is really important to be there, valuable for the better or for the worst, will stay despite your attempts to control, to send it away, or to keep it close. So all the time you should be practicing this attitude of surrender to guidance and embracing the consequences. So consequences are those things that touch you, that hurt you in some way. So what you will experience as consequences is the reflection of your dependencies, of your fragility. It will reveal where the fragility is, what are the dependencies, what degree of freedom you have towards them. So these things are very revealing. And either you go through them or you fall down. The seeker of truth does not have to wonder what is best for his family or even for himself. Just holding on to the path of liberation. Yes? Well, surely if you're on the path of liberation, you must know, at least intellectually, that there is a higher intelligence taking care of all. And whatever you're taking care, it's not yours. It's not you. It's something that's working through that body-mind complex. And it works in mysterious ways. That means you have no clue what the design is. But you can take the design as entertainment to entertain you. But whatever is there, it's not yours, it's not you. And if you don't see it that way, well, everything will continue the same. So trying to control destiny, fate, your destiny, and others' destiny, others' fate, just because of your weaknesses, of your fears, that is deviating from the path of liberation. Of course, if you love and you have not only dependencies, but there's love. Love doesn't suffer. It doesn't. Only dependency suffers. So once you eliminated those weaknesses, that which was pure, if there was pure love, it will continue there. It won't get affected. It will even grow because, well, it has room, because the petty things are not there. But the focus of the seeker of truth is following its guidance, increasing the intensity of his work. This is his direction. At least from where he stands, because sometimes guidance can change this to the opposite. But that's in specific circumstances, very specific, and this is why guidance is needed. But in the absence of guidance, that should be the focus. I have another question. By intensifying the practice, the mind, if it's not in the right place, that is to say, serving the heart, aligned with in this case, aligned with the heart, serving, being a tool in the hands of the path of liberation, and not in the path of improving the dream, securing it, etc., etc. Can suggest to me that it is madness and I will fall. Well, let me tell you something. It will not suggest. It suggests when it is a mild intensity. When you're really, really intense, it screams its lungs out in your mind. Yes, you're absolutely crazy and things will go very bad. This is a stage where there's still some logic in it, but the level of intensity, you can see it. It's not just me, there's something here. But yes, it's not only going to suggest, oh, maybe, no, it will scream in your head. Yes, you're getting crazy, you have to stop all of this. What are you doing? What will be of you? What will become of you? And then the greedy mind will say, then you'll have nothing. You've lost all this that you had secure. You have no guarantees of the other place. You'll get nothing. But above this, yes, and you will feel many times, oh, I must be losing my mind. And sometimes things go to the border of insanity. And if things go right, then it comes back again. But sometimes intensity goes to the borders. It does. And this, you're crazy. Not only your loved ones will say this, those who are around you will say this. Other seekers of truth apparently, or the so-called, those who are in spirituality, many, if not the majority, will say this. Because if you're going too intense, more than they are, if you are facing attachments that they are not, they will be defensive. You speak to them about it, and they will project onto you their limitations and their reasons for inertia. And they will tell you that you're exaggerating, that it is the middle path and Jesus was in the middle of the world. This we hear a lot, but they forget that Jesus was a fisherman of men. He was not in the world to take care of the world. He was taking them out from there. But that's a different subject. So everyone around you will take up the voice of illusion and test your resolve, test your dependencies, because moving forward, you will have to leave all that which is dissonant behind. And sometimes that can be very, very, very painful. But it is always for the best. But that will be worthless in that situation. Because in the end, what really, really matters is action or absence of action. Not the reasons why you're doing or not doing it mean nothing. Either you're moving forward or you're not. When you said the intensity of the practice must exceed the capacity of adaptation, I had like an electroshock. I stay on a loop on this indication. I feel that it is absolutely right, absolutely. Adaptation is like a negotiation, a small arrangement that in the end is a huge obstacle. And more or less, when you intensify your practices, circumstances tend to change if you're intensifying. It can be changings in your environment, people, circumstances, jobs, whatever. Something that will start to shake the foundations of your reality, to unleash the fears, to uncover them. But if this is not intense, you start to get used to that. So the impacts will not be the same. And the mind has an extraordinary capacity to adapt and to survive. So the intensity of your work should exceed by far this capacity to adapt to circumstances, to use the new circumstances to feed old needs. So it has to be more intense. And in the quest for liberation, there is no negotiation. Whatever negotiation you do, it is your loss. By practicing beyond adaptability, the heart says liberation, the mind says madness. Yes. And the problem is that the heart says it once, more or less, and that's it. The mind will scream at every second for a long time until even the memory of what the heart said disappears. So when the heart says something, treat it as sacred, protect it and follow it, align yourself with it, or else you will lose it. And this is where guidance seems essential to me. Yes, to put the mind back at service of the heart, again and again, again and again. By writing to you, I realize that below the words, I ask you if you will be there until the end. And I realize simultaneously that yes, and that the real question is whether it is I who will be there till the end. Can't go back anymore. Don't underestimate. Yes, the question is if you'll be there till the end, because quest for liberation is not something that you decide now and then it is solved. It's just going. As at every level that you're tested, there is the making again the decision, the confirming that decision, maintaining that decision. And it will be tested again and again and again and again tirelessly. So some give up at the beginning stages, others when it starts to become intense. I've seen many say, oh, I wish I didn't know so much. I wanted to know so much. Now that I know, I wish I didn't knew. There's everything is possible. Everything is possible. So don't underestimate the game. And prepare your level best to endure whatever comes to you. Because, and the more intense it comes, it means well, your prayers are being answered. And that the divine is bringing the opportunities. Now it's up to you to take them. It's your part. And that no one can do for you. Okay. So next satsang will be Saturday, 9:30 in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. Until then, make the best use of your time. Make it real.